You're listening to The Sister Drill with Danae and Kiveli.
Hello and welcome back to The Sister Drill. I am Danae.
And I'm Kiveli.
And today we will be talking about a subject that has been kind of important for us in the last year especially. And this is the open household concept. We will basically be discussing everything that is connected to that, also because we are living in this type of an arrangement right now. So before we get into it, maybe a quick overview of how we're living. We're living in one big house with me and my partner and my kids. So these are already 4 people. Then Kiveli in her own, let's say, little area in the house. Then our au pair. So that's the 6th person. And
Well,
then
your kid's au pair. It sounds like it's our au pair.
No, not our au pair, right. Yeah. The au pair that's taking care of my kids. And then another friend. So 7 people in the house. It's a big house, but we are 7 people in it. So this is just to give you an insight of what we're going to get into. This is our household. But before we get into it, let's talk about what we disagreed on this week.
Okay, actually, I didn't prepare for this segment this time, but I think that
pretty obvious.
It's pretty obvious because there was one thing we disagreed on, which was actually related to the whole household concept thing, which was this room that we are in right now is it's right next to my room, and it is what we like. It's kind of a amalgamation of different things. It's the guest room, my guest room in a way. It's also the music room, obviously, where the grand piano is in. It is the podcast room. It is kind of, it is many different things. And we were kind of disagreeing on how to, psychologically feel about this room.
How to use it.
Exactly, how to use it. Like, it was important to me to feel that this was also kind of part of my space. And it was important to you to feel like it was also your space. So we kind of had to find where this my space, your space border lies, because the rest of the house is actually quite beautifully arranged in the sense that there is quite clearly a space that is more, the room of you and your partner, of your kids, of the au pair, the office of your partner. Then there is obviously my room, and then there is the common area, which is kitchen and living room and play area and things like that. The place where we eat and stuff like that. So this is the only room that is kind of a bit of a my space, our space, I would say, combination, and we had to figure out the right balance.
Yeah, I mean, there are several things that played into it. The first being that in the beginning we had talked about Kiveli having kind of an apartment within the house, let's say something like a 2-room apartment. So there is her bedroom, and then there would be this room. So this was why Kiveli was saying, well, this should actually be my space. Then, of course, we made it kind of like a music studio. This is, as you can see, where the grand piano is, and also where we are recording the podcast, where we would rehearse, or where we are rehearsing when other musicians come and we play chamber music. So this also plays a role. And then also it is a factor that in order to get to this room, you have to walk through Kiveli's room. So you could only enter it by walking
and of
through
course
your
the
room.
biggest one is that it this room is very well isolated compared to the rest of the house, but compared to my room it's very, very you can hear everything that's happening in the other room. So that there is this it's a typical, I would say, challenge with living together, trying to figure out ways so everyone feels at home and comfortable, and that no one feels like there is a compromise going on or things like that, but you have to communicate and kind of discuss where those boundaries lie. So a very on-topic disagreement.
It was a very on-topic disagreement, and also we haven't completely come to the solution yet. I mean, we're more emotionally, I would say,
resolved.
We found a solution resolved, but we haven't really discussed, okay, what is it now? We are still kind of working on that. But I think this whole episode will be on how to work on these things.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to start off by asking you, when was the first time that you became aware of this concept of what I call an open household, and also what does it actually mean to you, the open household?
I think that it's interesting because both our parents, in very different ways, didn't necessarily practice open households. Our father practiced a lot of open household, but also our mother was very welcoming to other people. Open household meaning that it's a very common or kind of very desired by all the people living in the house to be very welcoming of other people, to stay whether it's just for a night or two or just for some months, you know, to be like very open about sharing the space, not just with the people who officially live here for long term, but also short term people coming in and out. Our father definitely, I would say, had we definitely saw this philosophy in action in his house in San Diego. He had a big house in San Diego that had lots of different little spaces. There was a tree house in the garden that wasn't just like your typical little tree house, but it had like electricity and a kitchen and a bathroom and everything. And there were multiple areas for guests to stay in. And it was like, I would say it was two things. One of the things was like generally people staying there for 6 months there or a year there that kind of became part of the closer circle or family almost. But then it was also that during the days, friends that wouldn't stay there could literally just come and go spontaneously as their schedules allowed for it. It would literally be, today this person's coming. And I remember really loving it because also someone who really, I would say, feels very comfortable with people around. I love the fact that every day there were new encounters happening and spontaneously, you know, you would start out the day and, this cool person is coming by.
Yeah.
So I really loved both, I would say, like the generosity that an open household concept implies, as well as the fact that in practice you get to see so many more people and get close to so many more people.
So for you, as you already said, the open household also implies that there are not only people that are living in the house, but let's say strangers that don't live there coming by, right?
Yeah.
Because, for me also, the first time that I became aware of that was when we were for a long time, for the first time in California, visiting our dad, because I remember him using this word. He said to us, we're living in an open household. And I just thought, what does that mean, open household?
Yeah.
And I remember situations where we would wake up in the morning and I would ask him, so who's here today? And he said, I don't actually know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know. He's because friends brought friends. And of course, we should say that, it was a very big house. So it's not like a little flat where obviously, who's there. You can definitely get lost.
Also, the garden was very big. And
exactly.
Yeah.
And it was very much also kind of this spiritual community feeling.
Yeah.
But I was also very intrigued by it. And then also with our mother in Germany, we also had people staying over for months at a time that needed a place.
For sure. I mean, again, of course, it comes with a certain size of house that, you can then offer this also to have guest rooms and things that obviously, I mean, the house that we live in now is not comparable in size to the house that my dad, that our dad had in San Diego. But I mean, it's absolutely possible to, have people come in spontaneously. And I always loved that. I always loved both the spontaneous aspect and that, it feels like out of an ordinary day, an extraordinary day can happen, which is wonderful.
And do you think that people have to be similar in their interests and in their lifestyles in order for this to work? Now, I'm thinking, of course, especially more about the long-term guests, not just someone visiting for the day. So, like, if you party late, does everyone have to be a late partier? Or if you're an early riser?
Right. I mean, of course, again, it depends on how much space you have so that everyone can live kind of their own individual preferences, live out their individual preferences. Generally, I think that it helps to know what are your like hardcore boundaries and what are your softcore boundaries. And I think that in the hardcore boundaries, you need to make sure that the people that stay in your house are aware of them and follow them. But I would say with the softcore boundaries, if someone lives a very different lifestyle to you, maybe it's also interesting to kind of dive into or tap into a different philosophy and try that out in a way. But I would say that, at least for me, I don't have very many hardcore boundaries. The truth is that as long as I have my own room and my own like private space to be able to kind of retract to and live out whatever I want to do in that moment, I don't have that many hardcore boundaries that would make it difficult for me to have different types of people with different habits live in the house.
I also feel like actually similar interests or similar lifestyles are not important at all. Because if I think of just my au pairs, for example, I mean, they go out, they party late, obviously, they want to enjoy the city, and I don't, because I stay with the kids, so that doesn't bother me at all. Of course, there are certain things for me, for example, if I'm thinking now about au pairs, like I'm looking for a non-smoker, for example. I don't think I would feel so great
Yeah.
about people smoking in the house because we're all non-smokers.
definitely
so-
not in the house. But I mean, if there is a smoker, you just say, please smoke in the garden, please smoke
right
in front of the house.
But
you know?
I'm just thinking about
Yeah.
that this would be something that would make me feel a little more uneasy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think lifestyle wise, other than that,
Yeah,
it can vary. Of course, it depends on the size. I mean, there was a time where you can speak maybe from experience where you were roomies with literally 3 other people in a 2-room.
I mean, I took the open household concept a bit to the extreme. I mean, it's again, so the situation was that when I had just moved to Berlin, I moved to a 2-room apartment. I mean, obviously, I'm a single girl. I don't need that much space. So I just had a 2-room apartment. So bedroom, living room, kitchen, bathroom, hallway. And because I had some friends that come from Lesbos, the island that, you know, we're both from our Greek side, and I had invited them to come visit Berlin and maybe check out Berlin, get a job here, see whether they maybe want to stay. They're all my age, so it was kind of at a phase where we're all embarking and starting on, you know, what do we want to do with our lives.
It was like what we call in German WG
Exactly.
style.
So basically, I'd said that if you guys come, I know that it is a big deterrent to come to a place where you don't have a place to stay, you don't have a job, you know, how to financially kind of do that. So I told him you can just come, stay at my place and until you're kind of settled in. And then once you also have a stable income, you can start to find your own place. And it had been for a while, for a couple of years, it had always been like alternately one person, then another person, then another friend. But then one year, it kind of happened that 3 friends came at the same time. So for 1 year, it was actually 4 of us staying, like me and my best friend in my bedroom and 2 other good friends in my living room. And again, I mean, because I'm a person that doesn't have these many like hardcore boundaries that would bother me, I actually experience it as a very cool situation most of the time. Of course, sometimes, you know, there were, especially like I remember when I was really preparing for a concert and I was like in a high pressure situation and my piano was in the living room, so where the other 2 were staying and they were, I don't know, playing something on their phones. Like I would then, you know, practice with headphones to kind of have my own sense. Obviously, there are some situations where it's even better to have as much private space as possible. But generally speaking, I took far more positive excitement and unpredictability from the entire experience than it being a problem for me.
And in this type of very little space environment, would you say that there it is more important to be kind of on a similar rhythm or even there?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it was quite interesting. It was me and my best friend had like more of a, I would say, conventional rhythm of, maybe going to bed late here and there and then waking up at a reasonable time. And the other 2 were very much like, you know, going to bed at 4:30 in the morning and then waking up in the afternoon or something. But not afternoon, but like noonish. But generally speaking, again, I didn't, as long as I could do what I wanted to do. And I remember even if they were sleeping, I was saying like, you know, I'll come and practice. I'll put on my headphones, but it's still, you know, like as long as it's very clear, like my hardcore boundary would of course be whenever I want to practice, I need to be able to practice, you know, and things like that. But generally speaking, I found that, you know, as long as you have this space where you feel comfortable in, it's fine. And my best friend and I had a very similar, I would say, philosophy. So that worked very well. If she had like the going to bed in the middle of the night philosophy, maybe that would have been a bit more difficult.
So, I mean, I think one of the most important questions to talk about is, you already mentioned it, but what are the basic needs that have to be met? I mean, you already mentioned space. I think space is incredibly important. I feel like also in this house, we are this many people, but each and every one of us has their room, for example, has their space. I mean, obviously I share a room with my partner, but there's a room where you go and if you wanted to, you could lock the door and no one would come in. So, I mean, space is a factor, but also is there anything else like sound, volume?
I mean, it depends on the person. For me, I think definitely this privacy space, especially like for a long-term living arrangement, I need to be able to be 100% comfortable and myself in my room and to not feel judged, to not feel like you have to be a certain person or have to be like, engaging with, and we can just totally, do whatever you want in that situation. Other than that, I think what needs to be important is that you have to have the feeling that financially you're in a comfortable space, like whatever that may be. You know?
mean within the group?
Yeah, like I'm thinking about things like who buys stuff for the
Groceries,
supermarket and everything.
yeah.
I mean, not necessarily that it has to be 50-50 or 30-30-30, whatever, but that you feel comfortable with that arrangement, and then you're conscious of that arrangement.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's very clear that this person is about this and this person takes care of this, that there is no like kind of one person feeling slighted in that area. Because especially if finances are scarce, I think that then, you know, it can quickly be a point of contention. I think with us, it's not that much because, like, none of us, like, spends copious amount of money on something that the other person wouldn't, you know? But I think that generally, especially when you talk about an arrangement where a lot of people don't earn that much money, you have to be very clear about who gives what for what. Like, also when it comes to, like, you know, heating and water and things like that.
For me, one of the very basic needs that you did not mention, but that for me is very important, is also like the cleanliness.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Like just the household chores. Let's say, you know, who's gonna vacuum, who's gonna wash up, who's gonna dust off. I don't know, all these things. This is also for me something to discuss, and something that we very much did discuss.
Yes.
So I mean, maybe we can go through those basic needs, how we did it, because I think what is different in our arrangement, and it also kind of ties to my next question, is that there is not one clear person who's, let's say, the ultimate veto decision maker. You know, it's not like you in your apartment and 3 friends come and join you. We are very much 3 equal people, I would say. So I mean, Kiveli and I and my partner are the 3 people that kind of make the joint decisions for this house. And then, of course, the au pair and the friend is a guest, and the kids just, you know, follow. But
The kids just enjoy.
Exactly. But I think this is kind of what makes it a bit special and different, because it would be different if you said, this is my house, ultimately my rules, but we're 3 also very different people.
With very different needs.
Exactly, making the rules. So, I mean, maybe we can start with this whole chore thing, because this was definitely
I mean, the way we did it, which is, I think, exactly the way one should approach it, is obviously in our respective areas. It's like my space, my rules. And then in the joint areas, there has to be like a very, I would say, clear and concise strategy in place. And I remember even before we moved in, or just when we moved in together, one of the first things we did is like a household schedule and plan. Where we
literally made a schedule.
Very like we verbalized. Well, it's more you verbalized, and because I mean, in terms of cleanliness and like tidiness, you've got a higher standard than me. So it was more you saying, okay, this is what I really need to be done.
Right.
And then we decided, and we quite fairly did it, you know, every week we take turns in one thing, you know, 3 times a week take turns in another thing. But there has to be a very clearly communicated strategy in place.
Exactly. And this is why I say it ties into my next question, because my next question is how to deal with conflicts when they arise. And for example, because this was, let's say, kind of a point of conflict, another point of conflict or potential point of conflict was how to deal with the open part of the open household, because that's very much where you have, let's say,
where,
the highest...
I'm like the highest standard of openness, and I would say that maybe your partner is the one least enthusiastic about certain types of guests, like, you know, not any guests.
And also just like a lot of guests.
A lot of guests. And I mean, again, there, it is like, it's always a matter of kind of accepting the hardcore boundaries of somebody, and being very willing, everyone involved, to kind of adapt in the soft core boundaries of it. Like, for example, with this one, it's very clear that if there are a lot of guests, that there are more obviously in the lower, more my space of the house. And then obviously there are certain things that cannot happen, like they can't wake up the kids because they're too loud or something like that, you know? Like this type of quite obvious situations. But within the confines of saying, okay, if there are a lot of people at a later time, they can come to my room, they can come to the music room, things like that, that then maybe it's also okay to have many people unannounced. You know what I mean? Like this type of compromise. And ultimately, I think that once strategy is in place that everyone agreed on, you cannot subsequently get into a bad mood about it. That is a very, very important thing. It has to do with any arrangement where like many people decide on a bigger project. You have to be like in that discussion, we're also like, you know, you can be very honest about what you want, and no, I want that, I can't be okay with this or that. But as soon as like a compromise has been found, after that, you like, it's very important to be enthusiastic about that
and
in the following
it
time.
shouldn't feel as a compromise anymore.
Exactly.
As soon as it's been decided, I
Yeah.
think it's important that you stop thinking, okay, I'm making a compromise, but
Yeah.
you start thinking, this is the plan. This is my life now.
Exactly.
And I think that in all these points, you have to kind of define who has the, let's say, highest standard or the highest, expectations.
Yeah.
And then, of course, kind of go with that person, because otherwise
Yeah.
that person will be unhappy. And then try to accommodate
as much as possible.
As much
Yeah.
as possible. So obviously there are compromises involved. And
Yeah.
for me, the most interesting thing has been actually watching my partner, who very much comes from the opposite side of the spectrum when it comes to open households. I mean, he didn't experience anything like that
Yeah.
before this house. Very much traditional, I would say, I mean, closed, if you want to call that, but just the normal
Yeah.
family arrangement,
Yeah.
which is you live in your house, and of course you have a guest here and there, but you live with your partner, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then he was suddenly confronted with us and this whole thing. And it has been very interesting for me to see how he changed and how his perspective changed, and how he now actually values something that in the beginning very much scared him and almost, made him feel uncomfortable. So this is why my next question is, obviously there is so much compromise involved, and you have to, in a way, sacrifice something. Why do it? So what is your takeaway from it? What is the value in
I mean,
it?
I think that generally, first of all, why do it live together with your family and things like that?
Yeah.
I think that
there are two parts.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do the living together, and then also the
Again,
more
I
open
mean,
thing.
the open household, I think it's because you get so much more than you have to compromise. I mean, also, if I just think about the fact that because we've got obviously many mutual friends, but many of those mutual friends are closer to one of us. We both know them, but they might be closer to one of us. That whenever a friend that's closer to you comes along, I get to see that person as well, and I get to enjoy my time with them as well, and vice versa. That there is the amount of people you get in contact with multiplies, and every time you get in contact with someone, there is always potential for something unexpected, beautiful, nicer to happen. Like, it gets you out of your everyday routine, which in my opinion is a good thing, getting out of your everyday routine. So, and of course the other thing is also, I would say it's a maybe deeper, more, I would say, less tangible feeling of constantly being in a gesture of open arms and inviting people into your life and into your lifestyle. And I do think that we're both very privileged people, and we grew up in a very privileged way, and are continuing to, I would say, enjoy consequences of said privilege. And I also feel that, I wouldn't use the word responsibility, but that it makes me feel good, and as if I'm kind of paying it forward to make it possible for people who are less privileged or didn't have as much luxury available as we did, to share that with them and kind of invite them into our lives and make things easier for them. I mean, I do feel that it's almost a responsibility, but I don't want to have that as a rule for everyone who grew up, in a bit more privileged way. But it makes me feel very good to be able to share that with people. It makes me happy to see people partake in this lifestyle, because I do think that it's more the exception, this open household,
for sure,
than the rule.
I mean, the truth is, whoever I talk to, when I mention how we live, just the fact that you live with us, it's already what? I mean, first of all, they ask, how does your sister cope with having you and your family?
Yeah.
And then they ask, and how does your partner cope with having your sister?
Yeah.
And I think that is a very unusual
Yeah, it's the same. They
thing.
also, with me, they also always ask, what do you do if you want to have a guy over or friends over and you've got children there all the time and things like that. And I mean, generally speaking, it's again this question of what are your priorities. And I would say, if I compare the feeling of, for example, being so
the truth
close.
Is you just do it. You just have a guy over. You just have a friend.
Obviously no. But I'm saying the priorities of this smidge of extra privacy you might feel of really having a 100% space that is your own, versus the payoff of, for example, growing up, being so close to my nephews growing up and seeing them every day coming back from the kindergarten, sharing the new friend they made or the new word they learned, the new habit they had, or just the availability to have someone I grew up so close to, be there, for every slightly unnecessary, unimportant mini issue arising in my life. Also, like, how much I've learned from your partner, being someone who's so different from me. And if you live with someone, of course, there is like some sort of influence that happens, and I find being influenced by people who I respect but are very different from me also a very positive thing. And generally, again, it's this matter of like, I really enjoy liveliness. And I think that liveliness is something that gives me energy. And when I go up and everyone is there and things are happening and the kids are playing on the carpet and someone is cooking and there is music going on and our friend is working in the living room and, your boyfriend's coming down. Yeah, I just did this and this deal. Like, it gives me it's so many different sources of inspiration. It gives me energy to, be my best self.
Yeah. For me, it was kind of a development, I would say, because when I moved out from our childhood home, I was very happy to, I first moved in with my boyfriend, but then we broke up, and then I was very happy to have my own apartment, and I was never even considering going into a VG type thing, with roommates. I was very happy to just have my space and do whatever I wanted. And then actually, when this whole thing with kids started, that's when I really changed my perspective, and when I really got into this whole open thing again and was reminded of how much I liked it as a kid, actually. And that's when I started thinking about what I think is a huge advantage for children growing up in a household with not just the parents, but other people. Because it reminds me of, back in the olden days when you grew up with the entire village, basically. And I think that this is such a big takeaway, because you know how you always say you need at least two parents, to balance each other out. But imagine if you have, let's say, 5 people that are acting as parents, how much they can take away from that. And it's different cultures, it's different languages. The kids are growing up with 3 languages, simply because there is also, for example, this English-speaking au pair in the house. And also, different influences from completely different parts of the world, different world views, and getting to play in different ways with different people. Like the way they play with our friend, who is also their godfather, is so different from the way they play with me and with my partner. And that's great that they also have that. They're a bit more like rough and wild with him. And it's great that they can do that with him. And that's why I think that it is so valuable to do that. And then also the visitors. Yes, there is some kind of, let's say, work that goes with it. If you think about, okay, maybe it might be a bit stressful to have to prepare something for them or clean up after or things like that. But the benefit that you get from it, and the influence and the joy and the adventure, at the end of the day, you remember this experience. You don't remember another day in the life of the house with the 2 parents that were having the same dinner. But you remember, that night when 5 people came over. So I've really gotten to think of it as something extremely valuable, especially since having kids. And what I also really like is, sometimes I just come up from my practice and suddenly there's a cake that was made and someone made cookies and things just happen because there are so many people in the house. Everyone does their thing and you share this, especially when there are people from different countries. Suddenly you eat a dish that you didn't even know existed. And
this unpredictability, for me, like everything that's unpredictable also automatically implies there is potential for something cool. And that, I agree totally. Like all this, like the fact that you can constantly be surprised in your own house. I can see how maybe other people, or maybe people that are not used to this type of mentality, might also find that an intimidating aspect. Like, I want to feel safe, comfortable. I want it to be predictable. But personally, I don't crave comfort or safety that much as I crave adventure. You know
how many people have asked me about the au pair experience, because the main factor why they are unsure whether they want to do it is because they will have someone living in their house.
Interesting.
And so many people have asked me, how is it? Isn't it weird that there's someone else in the house? And I'm just like, she's not the only one in our house. You know? So like, for me, it's something so obvious, but also because we grew up with au pairs in our house. So
that's true.
For me, it was normal. But I find it interesting for how many people it really is a very big step to invite someone into this, which it also is, this sacred space called home. And, you know, unsure what to do with it. But a story that I really like that is also connected to languages, but I think that plays a big part in this, having many people in the house, is that the person that developed this language program, I don't want to say anything wrong, but I feel that it is the Rosetta program, but I might be mistaken. Anyway, the person that developed it said that he grew up in an environment where every person in his life spoke a different language. So he spoke one language with his father, one with his mother, one with the gardener, one with the cleaning lady. And he grew up thinking that every person speaks a different language just because he grew up in this super multicultural environment. So for him, it was so normal that he would learn a language quickly in order to communicate with the person. And of course, it's not quite like that in our household, but still there are many languages. And I can see that my kids are already saying, okay, he says it like that, she says it like that, he says it like that. And I think it's so great to not assume, you know, that
everyone is like you.
Everyone is like you, but to already be like, okay, he does it like that, she does it. I think it's such a beautiful thing to start from.
Yeah, I mean, also not just in terms of languages, but also in terms of culture and
habits,
traditions and food. And I mean, your kids come into contact with so like on the spectrum of conservative to super like progressive. They get into contact with all types of people. And that is so nice, you know, for them to just not assume that there is one thing that's normal, but what is normal is diversity and variety, which is amazing.
So I thought that in order to finish this big subject, I found some questions on the internet about things to clear up before you move in together. And I thought we could answer these questions, whether we've cleared them up. And also like
the answer
how we deal with them. Some are a bit longer, some are shorter. So, the first one is how to divide finances. This is obviously something that we discussed in the beginning.
I mean, it's just everything divided by 3.
We share everything, exactly. And I think obviously this is also probably the number one thing you need to discuss before getting into any kind of living arrangement. So the second point is chores, cleaning, washing up. We kind of already mentioned that. And now we're getting some smaller ones. So toilet seat up or down?
Down.
Definitely
We're all down. Even your partner is a down person, right?
He's the biggest down person.
No, because I mean, usually the thing is like men like it, guys like it up. And
no, I don't think they like it. They just leave it.
But I mean, I don't ever put it up in order to.
No, but I mean, that's true. But I meant the entire thing.
Because I'm actually an up person.
Yeah, I find that
I thought you meant like the second one.
I mean, you're right. That's also a fact. But okay, that anyway.
Yes, yeah.
No, but I meant the entire...
Do you know what the thing is? The thing is like whenever the toilet seat is down, I feel that the previous person like maybe did a specific messy situation.
I know, you've told me that.
Closed it to kind of hide it. So I'm always afraid to open it up that maybe a more disgusting image is going to greet me. I find it so weird.
To me, it's like a matter of kind of being polite.
No, and
you close
and the other thing is like in the bathroom usually smells like your toilet detergent, right? And I find that the toilet detergent being like the good smell, that if you close it, you don't let the freshness go in.
You do realize that that's also where the stinky bits
I know, but it's kind of that. No, I get it, but that is flushed down. Hopefully.
So obviously we have not cleared that one up.
Yeah, but I mean, I use my bathroom. You guys use your bathroom.
Exactly.
So
the good thing is there are several opportunities here where you could go to the toilet, so it's not really a point of conflict. But I'm very much a down person. Then it says taking out the trash.
Well, we've also very much have a plan for that. Yes.
Then toilet paper over or under?
Over.
I'm also an over person.
Yeah.
Totally. My ex-boyfriend who I used to live with was an under person.
Really?
And I didn't get it.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I'm an over person.
Very much over person also. Okay, then who does the cooking?
That would be maybe the one that we haven't completely figured out because there's so many people. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's a kind of situation because you automatically usually, of course, cook also for your kids and your partner.
Yeah.
Before I started like being very careful with what I eat, I used to also cook for everyone.
Yes.
Like when I did a meal, I used
Yeah.
to cook for everyone. Now that I'm a bit more picky with what I eat and I try to eat as healthy as I can, I kind of, also many times don't cook like big meals, but would eat like smaller snacks or, if I cook a big meal, keep it for the next day because it's like a chickeny meal. Or
Yeah.
So I know that you've expressed a desire for me to
podcast.
cook for you more. So
No, but actually, when we started living in this house,
everyone for themselves, right?
I would say
Yeah.
now it's very much everyone for themselves. But when we started living in this house for a while, I kind of felt the obligation to cook for the entire group somehow.
Okay.
And we used to have these lunches, where we
Yeah,
would have
yeah,
the
yeah,
full
yeah.
table. Really, everyone who was in the house would eat, and it would be like
Yeah.
lunchtime, let's go. But now it's kind of changed also due to the fact that the kids are in kindergarten.
And also Corona, like the
yeah.
lockdown has stopped, so we're not all actually,
Exactly.
we're rarely all in the house.
At the same time, exactly. But now I feel like it's just everyone for themselves, which
Yeah.
I also think is the easiest
Yeah.
way. And of course, as I mentioned before, sometimes someone makes a cake or cookies,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
someone
yeah.
makes a banana bread, and
Yeah.
that's for everyone.
Yeah.
And there's like a special treat, or we might plan, okay, dinner together
Yeah,
tomorrow,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then, but
Or someone orders food
Yeah.
for everyone. So yeah. Mhm.
but I think, actually, a little detour from the questions, it's a very important fact to mention that we are rarely all in the house at the same time.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we have lives that are very much outside of the house, traveling a lot.
Yeah.
We are, on concert tour, and then it means that we actually are not so much in each other's hair and
Yeah.
in each other's spaces because we
Yeah.
are out of the
Yeah,
house
yeah,
quite
yeah,
a lot.
yeah, yeah.
I think it plays a big role.
Yeah.
It would be different if we had an office job and just came back.
Yes.
Okay. Then the next question is more if you're also sharing the room, but are you a snoozer? How's your alarm clock situation?
Yeah, I'm very much a snoozer. Danae is not at all a snoozer. That only comes into play for us when we share a hotel room.
I mean, it used to be a thing when we used to share a room back in our
That's
childhood
true.
home.
Yes.
Because I'm someone who just sets the alarm clock and just gets
Yeah,
up.
and I'm very much someone who snoozes.
Who snoozes, yeah.
Yeah.
And when we used to share hotel rooms, now we actually don't share hotel rooms
not
anymore.
We've upgraded to single hotel, like to
Cool.
to two hotel rooms.
That's
when
the
we
level that
travel,
we're
yes.
at already. But that was a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
Actually,
I think the compromise was that I said I'm going to just do like one plus
One
one,
snooze.
like one snooze,
Yeah.
basically. So there are 2 times
Yeah.
instead of, I usually do 4.
my partner's thankfully also not a snoozer.
Yeah.
It's just alarm and get up. I love that. Okay, the next one is actually something that we've discussed quite often. How do we feel about plants?
Plants, oh Lord. Yeah. You see, I'm not a plant person at all. I'm like an art, a sculpture, a painting person.
I mean, the question says plant decorations, but that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. And Danae would love to, like, whenever there is a space, like, place a planty thing in there. I
I
just
feel like
it's
plants
also like,
give life.
yeah, you see, it's interesting because I don't feel that plants give life at all. I feel that, I mean, certain types of flowers might give life, or like interesting plants, but just greenery. I also am not that, I mean, I'm now wearing green and you're also wearing green, but also I'm not that fond of the color green, especially not like plant green.
Interesting.
And I'd much rather look at like a sculpture or something like beautiful, something artsy, painting.
You see, to me, the plant immediately signifies cozy somehow. I feel comfortable here. I feel at home here. I'm right now thinking about, I don't know why this is popping into my mind, but I remember that when I used to go see a psychotherapist, going into her office, there was the couch next to a gigantic plant. And I remember sitting there and thinking, this is a safe space. There's this plant.
Interesting, yeah. For me, I mean, it's not, the truth is, when they're there, they don't bother me. It's not like, oh, I look at them and like, But like,
But
they
you
also
want
don't
to
inspire
consciously
me.
buy them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the other thing is
But
that
you said
especially
you
if they're
like
real-
those little trees, these mini trees, that we put upstairs.
Oh yeah,
Those you said you liked,
Yeah,
right?
I just thought because they're not real.
Yeah, but the look of them.
Yeah, but the look of them, because they look artsy. They're like, a perfect little circle.
And that they look like a real plant would look like that real plant would look.
I mean, the plant that we have in our living room, that's kind of like this thing that's snaking around.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know the name,
beams
but
on the ceiling. To be honest, I mean, it's fine. But if it were like just dangling around, I would be a bit like, what is this thing in my face?
Really,
You know?
what I would really like to have for the house is one of those big plants that stands in the corner, like a mini palm tree type of situation.
Yeah.
I think that would be so beautiful, like next to the sofa or something.
Yeah, I mean,
that.
currently we're having, we actually have something there.
Yeah, but
that is
it's
another
not
thing that I really
it's
dislike.
dead. It's dead.
It's a we. I don't even know why we have it there. I mean, we've taken it with us from our like back where we grew up in home, but it's like a very weird piece of is it art? Is it supposed to be art?
Yeah, it's basically it's an art creation
it's like a
made out of
huge vase.
sticks.
Yeah, it's a huge vase where there are just like about 120 brown sticks in there.
Sticks.
Like
I
just
mean,
sticks.
I don't think it looks ugly.
I think it looks
It's
a bit evil.
evil. I think you just have bad memories attached to it.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay, anyway, next question. Candlelight and fire in general, yes or no?
Yes.
I'm also very
Love
much
it.
a candle
Yeah.
person, yeah. This was a point of conflict actually for me and my partner, who is not so much a fire person, but I'm also very much a candle person. Also like incense
Yes.
and
Oh, yeah.
all
Love
these
it.
types of
Love
things.
it.
And then scents, air freshener, scented candles.
Love everything that's a nice
Smells.
scent. Doesn't matter what. Just I love everything that's like an added yumminess.
Same. And then the last question is music. So like loud party music, Zen meditation music.
That was actually an interesting one for your partner because your partner is very much Zen and like silent music.
Yeah, he's Zen, but then he also has this minimal, like kind of chill techno.
Yeah, but also like whenever
vibe.
but it's always also very quiet. Like the music's
Yes.
always very quiet.
Yeah.
And I love like I say, okay, if I work and I listen to music, of course, like in the background and everything. But if I'm like, doing something that I don't need concentration for, like cleaning or, like ordering something, unpacking, then I love to be like, like in a cocoon of music and like really whatever mood I'm in, whether it is like Greek music mood or Latin music mood or jazz mood or whatever, symphony mood, I want to like be consumed by it as much as possible. So I like literally this thing where it's like, it's loud enough for it to be the most present thing in your mind.
Yeah.
That's like the level that I like.
Yeah. No, I think you're pretty loud. Like you're, compared to the average person, you love listening to pretty loud music.
If I'm by myself, of course, right? I mean, if there is another person there, obviously I'm going to talk to them.
For me, it's I like music, but actually not in every situation. Sometimes I also appreciate silence when I need to focus. And for me, it's definitely not too loud, unless I'm dancing to it, and partying with it.
Yeah.
But,
and the other thing is that I also like music that energizes you. Like I don't like music that is chill or
Nora Jones.
I like music
I
that
love
like
Nora
gives you energy or like pulls you into one direction very strongly that is not the direction chill.
Yeah.
Interestingly, the only time I like listening to not chill music in terms of like atmospherically chill music, but like just nice, pleasant, calming songs is when I work out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the only situation and it's sort of because my personal trainer was like, this is the type of music you listen to when you work out. Like usually everyone listens like to pump up mixes and everything, but this majorly stresses me out. Like it's a perfect.
I didn't know that.
It's a perfect counterpoint to me, like losing my, being very challenged energetically to have a type of music that just kind of like calms me down.
Yeah, interesting. What I just want to add, just because we're talking about music, is that so often people say, if I want to relax, I listen to classical music. And I find that just so strange.
Yeah.
Probably, of course, because we are classical musicians and we listen to it so differently. But when I listen to classical music, there's nothing relaxing about it.
Not at all.
totally focused, trying to
Yeah.
understand what's happening, trying to analyze the
Yeah,
interpretation.
absolutely.
So for me, it's the most unrelaxing
Yeah.
thing ever.
Yeah. I mean, actually, what I don't like listening to at all is just because you said relaxing, and many times, like, these relaxed mixes are these, like, super simplistic, like,
Yeah.
melodies that are supposed to, like, slightly kitschy, I would say. And this is the type I really don't like listening
Yeah,
to that
same.
at all.
Me neither.
Like, also,
Yeah.
like, plain music or, like, waiting room music, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I like something that emotionally takes you in some direction.
But I think generally we are very much on the same music taste boat.
Yes.
And sometimes we just like go for a Greek party in the kitchen.
Exactly,
with
love
Greek
it. Or just a
music
dance
and-
party or like
Yeah.
a 90s party.
Yeah. No, it's
the
super
club
cool.
music that we
It's
grew up
super
with
fun.
party.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay, so do you have a story
Yes,
prepared?
actually I do have a story,
Okay.
and it is like quite a full circle moment when I think about it many times, because I remember that obviously, you know, we grew up together, but then when you were 16 and I was 12, you had a 6-month period abroad where you lived in Austria for 6 months. And it was like this huge, I would say, challenge, especially for me, because I mean, obviously you were having like an adventure in Austria and I was just back at home going to school normally. So I remember like it was like this huge thing, oh my God, I can't imagine, you know, we're not going to be living together. And I was thinking to myself when we were talking about it that from that point onwards, you had another 2.5 years living at home. And then after that, we both knew you were moving away for studies. And then I would be staying at home for 3 years living there. And then I would come and study. And that was like, you know, this big looming, I would say, black cloud in my life that in 2.5 years you would then move away. But I remember that I was saying that, yeah, but, you know, which means that in 5.5 years, when I have also graduated, we can actually move in, the two of us. And we were like fantasizing, yeah, we're going to live and we're going to do this and this and that. And of course, you know, when I then graduated, I was very happy to move in by myself and kind of also have these like super living by myself, interesting experiences and things like that. But it's so interesting that, again, give another almost 10 years, like 8 years or something like that, and we're actually living together.
Yeah.
And I mean, a very different situation than we thought. I mean, you've got kids and a relationship, and I have a friend that's living here, and there's an au pair and everything, but we are living together. And it's like kind of sometimes when I think if my 12-year-old self could have known that this is where we're going to end up, I think I would have been like, this is something I can look forward to type thing.
Yeah. Yeah, my story is, it's not so much a story, more just such a positive memory. And it is a very recent memory because when we moved in here, or when you actually moved into the house, it was just before Christmas. And creating our first Christmas in this house together, I found was such a beautiful experience. And we kind of also said, let's make this the beginning of a tradition, because for Kiveli and I, we spent a lot of Christmases at our dad's place in California, and after that also a lot of Christmases in Greece. And we never really had this Christmas in our home where we actually lived throughout the year experience. We always went away for Christmas. And we thought also now, of course, with my kids, that it would be nice to maybe start that. And it was so nice for me. I think we're both people that love Christmas a lot. But we decorated the entire house. We bought a gigantic Christmas tree and created this whole thing with the presents and how we wanted to do it. And I feel like it's already paid off because we were already planning this year's Christmas here. Usually it was always kind of a discussion between us, where are we going to go, where are we going to visit, and now it's like we're here, we're in our home, we're going to spend Christmas here as a family.
I mean, I remember I was so excited when we moved in here because it was like the first time, because before we would live in different apartments and places, but it was always very clear that it was a temporary thing. And when we finally both moved into this house, it was like, okay, we found this house with the vision of making it our own, and also the way we've obviously decorated it, and the furniture we've put in it, we've like put so much thought into it. And it was like this first, because you moved in August and I moved in December, right? And the first big thing we did was, the big tradition we could start was Christmas. And I remember saying like all these things that we do now are going to be traditions for many years, and the kids are going to remember that as the Christmas tradition. And this was so exciting. It's true.
And now it's literally September, and Kiveli already mentioned to me, when are we going to put up the
Yeah,
Christmas
because
decorations?
basically, there is obviously still Halloween coming, end of
Yeah.
October. But I do think, and I know that other people are like, oh no, the Christmas tree comes like one day before Christmas or something.
No, I'm not on
No,
that
I'm not.
area,
Yeah, but I'm thinking like, throughout the course of November, a little
put some
snowman
decorations
can
up.
pop up.
Right.
Bit of lighting can
And then
pop up.
1st of December, Christmas trees up.
Like, we can start.
That's how we did it last year.
I know,
Yeah.
that's how we did. But we know we can start like maybe in the end of November, like discussing about how we're gonna decorate the Christmas tree, buying some ornaments.
my kids have already discussed.
Oh, yeah?
That they're saying, we're going to take the blue balls.
Oh yeah, I
and
love it. I love it.
They
Yeah,
have
yeah,
already
yeah.
decided.
Yeah. And I mean, I know I'm already excited with it. And then you're like, first presents popping. I don't know. Like the last time was actually very difficult because your kids are still at an age when they see a present,
Yeah.
it's very difficult to say like, put it in 20 days, But last year we did another super cool thing, which was basically from the night of the 24th to the 25th, we filled the entire space under the Christmas tree with like so many presents, and it wasn't just ours. It was like literally from my dad and from us and from your partner and from like your kids or for your kids, and then also like my friend, like the godfather and the godmother of the kids with their parents, like all of the presents from these like
it was a typical
13 different people. Typical open,
and I would say it was a typical Durkan Christmas.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
every Durkan Christmas includes having so many people from the most different backgrounds you can imagine. And I loved it so much.
Yes,
It was so nice.
And of course, if like you've got the presents from like 15 different people for the other 14, obviously like there's some accumulative present situation going on in the Christmas, which I just love. I remember the kids came down and they lost their minds. Like so many presents and everything was so colorful, and it's exactly what Christmas should be about.
So now this has turned into a Christmas episode. And we hope that you're not all in the Christmas spirit just yet. But
Getting there.
getting there pretty soon.
And Christmas
Exactly.
music. So
I think in December we're going to be making a lot of Christmassy episodes. I can already feel it.
Yeah. For sure.
Okay, so yes, we hope you enjoyed this episode on the open household concept. We don't really have
discussed
this. We haven't discussed what we're going to talk about.
So we're gonna have to tune in next week to find out.
Exactly. Be surprised.
See you next week. Lots of love.
Bye.
You're listening to The Sister Drill with Danae and Kiveli.